Okay, so in this problem, again, as usual, we're going to try plugging in the value first. So notice that if we plug in 0, we're going to get 1 plus 0 is 1 minus 1 is 0 over 0. Okay, so this means we have to do some more work. In this case, well, we have square roots, and so the first thing that it looks like we should try, I'm just going to rewrite it again. The first thing we should try is to multiply top and bottom by the conjugate of what the square roots are and see what that gives us. So we're going to multiply by square root of 1 plus x plus square root of 1 minus x. And if I do that, let's take a look at what happens on the numerator. So if I FOIL this out, what I end up getting is the limit as x approaches 0 of, so this is the difference of squares basically, and so I would get 1 plus x minus 1 minus x. And on the bottom I'm just going to leave everything how it is. So x times square root of 1 plus x plus square root of 1 minus x. Okay, and so what ends up happening is that I have the limit as x approaches 0 of one minus 1, so the 1's are going to cancel, and I have x minus a negative, so these two turn into a positive, so I'm going to have 2x on the numerator. On the denominator I have the same thing. I'm just rewriting it. Okay, and so if I notice now that these x's cancel, and if I plug in 0 here, what I get is 2 over 2 or 1. That's my answer. Okay, so in this problem, let's see, if I plug in 4, I would get 0 over 0, and in this case it's not as obvious what to do, but let me just rewrite the problem down again. So square root of 5 minus x minus 1 over 2 minus square root of x. Okay, notice how I have square roots on the numerator and the denominator here. And usually what I do is multiply by the conjugate, but it's not obvious the conjugate of which one. So all we can really do is try one and see what happens. So why don't we multiply by the conjugate of the numerator for kicks. So I would multiply by square root of 5 minus x plus 1 and square root of 5 minus x plus 1 on the bottom. Okay, so what I would get then is on the numerator I would get 5 minus x minus 1, and in the denominator I'm going to get 2 minus square root of x times square root of 5 minus x plus 1. Okay, and so here I get 5 minus 1, well this is 4 minus x over 2 minus square root of x times square root of 5 minus x plus 1. And here there doesn't seem to be at first glance something that I did. Notice that if I plug in 4, I would still get an indeterminate form. But now if you compare these two closely, you'll notice that back in problem number, I don't remember what problem it was, problem number 7, we saw two different ways to factor. Let's say if it looked like that, you can either multiply by the conjugate with the one with the square root, or factor this guy as a difference of squares. And so if you look at it that way, you can do a little trickery. So if we factor the numerator as a difference of squares, this would be 2 plus square root of x times 2 minus square root of x. And the denominator would look the same. And let me continue over here on the right. This would equal the limit as x approaches 4 of 2 plus square root of x over square root of 5 minus x plus 1. Okay, now if I plug in 4, now what I would get is, on the numerator I would get 4, and on the denominator I would get 2, so this is equal to 2. Now that's one way of doing it, or if we go back here to this step, another thing we could have done is multiplied by the conjugate of this guy, and we would have gotten a similar result. But this just seemed easier right now.